I think the big reason why investors avoid the camera is because of self-esteem or imposter syndrome. I think being in front of the camera kind of creates a degree of vulnerability, and folks just tend to get a little shy. And then that kind of snowballs, I think, into a mental downward spiral. Like, okay, like, does my hair look good? Is my skin look good? Like, it's very virtual in nature, where like they're worried about the way they look. Then it's like the way they sound. If whatever I say, do you think people are going to really resonate with? And it's like a deer in the headlights. They're just like, oh my God, what do I say? What do I do? What do people think? It's really all in their head. What I think people get wrong about personal branding is they focus too much on the image of the brand, you know, like the logo, the style of the font, the colors, you know, rather than like the message and the impact and what will ultimately move the individual emotionally, physically, spiritually. You know, I think a personal brand is not only a digitization of your reputation, but like an extension of who you are as a human being, as a person, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. I think a lot of business owners sound robotic online because they're following scripts, and these scripts are probably dropped on their table like right before the video hits. So they're having to like read it off a teleprompter or try and like memorize it, visualize it right before the video starts. So I think it's more robotic because of how structured it is. When I talk about media being legacy, I think about the digitization of the reputation, the cloning of oneself, and to record something, either audio or video or both, like that's like tattooed in time. That's like an etching in time. And as long as that digital file, or as long as that recording is not destroyed, it will last forever. You know, that's a really good question. I get ready by like going through some mental exercises, just some stillness, some meditation, some, you know, voice exercises, like blah, 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 like gibbering a little bit, kind of riffing a little bit. I find that like talking to people, you know, just looking at the camera itself and being comfortable or getting myself comfortable with the exposure. And then if I can fully rested and have gone through like a pretty good workout, like I'm pretty chill, I'm ready to go. No, I don't think there was a time that I've ever hated being in front of the camera. Hate's kind of a strong word, but I would say there have been times where I've been reluctant to be in front of the camera because maybe I wasn't feeling on point or I wasn't feeling sharp, training my brain a little bit to respond to that voice inside that says, you don't want to be in front of the camera, and flipping it to, oh, this is your opportunity to be in front of the camera. Take a walk. Maybe just take a walk, or like do like 30 jumping jacks, or do like 100, try to do 100 push-ups real quick. You know, like that will probably chill you out a little bit. And then maybe some vocal exercises. I would probably suggest somebody doing that. I think people kind of tie themselves to the identity because they are transfixed on their physical image. So I think they're worried too much about the way they look rather than the way they feel. And I think there's an energetics here that I want to speak to, because if you're able to harness the magnetic energy of your heart or your body's ability to exude magnetism, then you're not really too worried about like the mental part of it. You're not really too worried about the way you look or the way your hair is gelled or the way, you know, your posture is in a video. I think a lot of people are focused on the image, the literal physical image that they see on camera, rather than the energy that's coming out when they're on camera, because that is ultimately what people, I think, are most drawn to when engaging in content or consuming content. Yes, I do think perfection is holding people back quite a bit. You know, I'm raising my hand on that one too, because I'm an utter perfectionist, and to a default, I think to a degree, I am always clinging on to the edge, seeking perfection. And I think now in my career and in my life, I'm okay with it not being perfect as long as I strive for perfection. I think perfection is good to a degree to like instill standard operating procedures and you know, like values and like a baseline or a foundation of what we want to be, because we ultimately want to become 10.0 of ourselves. It's okay. Like, we're all human and we're all part of this big cosmic soup, man. So like, the process is more important than the product. When it comes to content, I think something that's more raw and real is way more important than something that's polished. Now, I could probably play devil's advocate here and lean towards the polished because of your levels of being amateur to professional, right? Like, there is a varying degree here between being an amateur and a professional. That doesn't necessarily mean that you can't have something that's raw and real at a professional level, and you can't have something that's polished at an amateur level. I think it's just relative to the content though, and it really depends. But if you're going to ask me which one I would prefer in terms of a consumer, I would probably lean more towards something that's raw and real than polished. I think a lot of really high level real estate investors are invisible because of a few reasons. I think maybe one of them is they're just at a point in their career that they don't need to be visible. They'd rather be silent investors and not be in the limelight. I'm thinking of like really high level investors in the, 8 to 9 figure range of wealth, billionaires and people with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. There's really no reason to be in front of the camera unless they had a message and they wanted to have an impact on the planet. So if they were more visionary and more impact driven, then I could see why they would want to leverage media in a way to send that message. Now, for those who are either starting out or have gone through several years of investing and have like built their businesses, I just think that a lot of people are afraid. They're scared. On the flip side of that, like, you get in front of the camera, you're not going to die. You're not going to, lose a limb or something. I think it's a big hit to the ego. And perhaps, and I can only speak for myself, but perhaps, the reluctantness to get outside of their comfort zone they may feel like it might impact their business, So if like if I'm an amateur in front of the camera, but I'm a pro at investing, like, how am I going to sound like a pro in front of the camera if I'm an amateur in front of the camera? I think nowadays, if you're not in front of the camera and you're not creating content, fast forward 5 years from today, you're going to be left in the dust. In today's age, everything's digital. I mean, now we're going into digital economy, digital currencies. We're going into everything digital. We're learning. And I mean, with AI and everything, it's just a matter of time before everything gets digitized. And so if you're not creating content and you're not in front of the camera, there's going to be a massive gap between those who are and those who aren't. You're going to have 15, 20-year-olds who are much younger than you that are crushing it because they know the game. So if you're out there and you're creating content and you're bringing a message and it resonates with the audience, they're going to be like way ahead than if you're like, I don't know, writing an essay or a blog post. I think being seen changes your business in a few ways, but the first one that comes to mind is just being able to clone yourself on camera, right? So like, if you're able to clone yourself multiple times, now you've got like 50 to 100 different clones of yourself that's out on the internet, that's either pushing a product, pushing a system or a process, or developing a way of doing something, is better than just one person out there, like door knocking or having a booth at a fair or something. Like, you can only be in one place at one time unless you clone yourself And you can do that by getting in front of the camera and creating content and putting yourself on the World Wide Web. Now you've gone globally. I would like to get to that point where we do have, full-blown media and production company. Like, that sounds really fun to me. And I think we're pretty good at it naturally. So I think what differs me now compared to those agencies is, I think, the impact driven nature of the message. I don't think everybody that's out there in social media is driven to make an impact through sustainability, health, wellness, and to educate others and empower others on how to grow a legacy and how to be intentional with, an intergenerational outlook for one's self and family. I think I can help them by empowering them and equipping them with confidence. I think by instilling confidence, inspiring others, showing people that it's really not that hard and it's really not that bad. I think people are a lot like monkeys. It's monkey see, monkey do. Like, oh, I really like what they're doing. I want to do that too. And so you're going to follow, and then you're going to, kind of work in the same capacity. So I think at some point, I would like to scale that confidence within all of my network. What people say to me after the first time they shoot was like, can we do that again? Like, that was really fun. Can we do that again? Or, gosh, that wasn't that bad. In fact, that was actually pretty good. And I think we're really good at encouraging people throughout the process. So when we're actually shooting and we got people in front of the camera, we're like coaching them, like, oh, you look great. You sound great. No. Like, you don't worry about that. Like, you're fine. This is going to be amazing. And it's just that mentorship that, take them under your wing and you like take care of people and you inspire them and you reassure them that, you're doing a good job. And like any coach, you're there and you're positive. I think that positivity really shines through when we're working with people that have never been in front of the camera. All this is for anyone who wants to create something that will outlast themselves. And that is all the reason why I'm doing this. Like, I really want to help people get better physically, mentally, financially, to design and build livelihoods, environments that promote health and wellness and legacy. I think anybody who's impact driven that wants to create a legacy over time, this is really for them. I've always been driven to serve. I've always wanted to help people and the planet. And I think that evolution and that growth in me has transcended into like what's going on today with real estate and construction and media. I'm learning the older I get that the magic I desire is in the work that I'm avoiding. The hard stuff that I don't want to do is exactly what I need to do in order for me to get to where I want to be. And that, that goes beyond material. That goes beyond just having stuff. I literally thrive off the doing, and what I get in return is knowledge and understanding, and I become stronger and I become a better person ultimately. And that type of personal growth, it's what feeds the soul. And I think the more I've done it over the years, the clearer things get for me. Like it's pretty clear now that I'm 42 years old, that this is what I need to do. And this is how I need to do it. Just take actions. I think a lot of us get in our own way because of this big voice inside of us that limits our pure potential. I think if we're able to just either mute that voice, just put the mute button real quick, mute button, and then act, your beliefs will follow your actions. As long as you can stay consistent with your actions, the beliefs will catch up. And it's okay if you can't be perfect at day one. Nobody ever is perfect on day one. Maybe nobody's ever perfect at day 100,000, but that's not what this is all about. It's about just taking action and fulfilling your ultimate desire. So if that fly on the wall wants to do something and is stuck, then I just say, you know what, put the mute button on that internal voice, take a step, and just watch what happens. Because if you stay consistent with those steps, you know, that's where the magic's at, man.